Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Brokerpreneur podcast. I am Dr. Ben Spears, the doctor of flow.
Yo,
I'm here with the big guy as usual, Matt Vi. How's it going, Matt?
doing absolutely fantastic, Ben. Absolutely fantastic.
I could have guessed that. You say that every time. So,
Still,
so anyway, you can't be fantastic every day,
I can.
right? Well, you
And
can, but you shouldn't be.
Okay,
There's so many more emotions,
right. There's a
right?
wide
There's a
spectrum of
wide
emotions.
spectrum of emotions.
That's what people accuse me of all the time, is a wide spectrum
Yeah.
of emotions.
That's Matt's so emotional, right? That's so I'm like, how do you describe Matt? Oh,
Emotional.
really emotional. He's really emotional.
He's highly empathetic and emotional.
Yeah. So, now that we have Matt out of the way,
Yep.
Matt,
Yeah.
who are we talking to? What are we talking about? What's going on today?
Now we got a killer guest. We're super happy to have Tim Garrity with Copper Hill Real Estate on here. He's gonna talk about something that I'm positive is gonna blow everybody's mind, from starting your brokerage, right, getting up and running, to how you make sure it stays on track, and how him and his friends came into having a kick-ass business. So we're gonna dig into that. I don't want to tell any more. We'll introduce him in just a second, but before we do that, Ben,
Two things. Number one, Tim's in Philadelphia, right?
he's in Philly. That's right.
Guys, I got a story. I'm not from Georgia, but I got a story. So my youngest son loves YouTube. He's like, I want to do a YouTube channel. And he sees these people like opening up like Pokemon cards and stuff, online.
Mhm.
And he said, I think I want to try, learn more about baseball cards and stuff. I'm like, okay, baseball cards. So he's going through and he's like opening these cards for the camera. And he's like, I don't know the names of these guys, Wander Franco and Derek Jeter and blah, 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 blah. And he gets to a team card of the Philadelphia Phillies. And he goes, and he's 9, right? And he looks at it and he's like, man, it's a big word. I'm not sure. He goes, Philadon Phillips. And I'm like, that's YouTube gold right there. We got our commercial. Awesome, guys. Well, wherever you listen to this, make sure that follow button, that subscribe button, and make sure you go to brokerpreneurpodcast.com. Check out the Brokerpreneur Fast Track. Take a sneak peek there and see all the cool things that we have for you to grow your brokerage. So without further ado, I got my Philadon Phillips story out of the way. Right. Let's bring on Tim Garrity, co-owner of Copper Hill Real Estate. How's it going, Tim?
It's going, boys. How are you? I love that. I love the introduction. That was pretty hilarious.
Yeah. It's me just sitting here and Ben talking. That's what makes it funny. Me just sit here and take the abuse.
Well, I've listened to a ton of your podcasts. I'm very honored to be a guest here today. And it's funny, like, to listen to you guys like so many times talk about so many great things over the last couple of years, and then actually be on the podcast and be introduced in a similar way is humbling. So I appreciate it.
Oh, sure. No, we appreciate that for sure. Thank you so much for listening. Everyone out there, thanks for listening too. But here's the thing. They didn't come here to listen to me tell bad jokes and kid stories. They come here to talk, to hear you and Matt talk about real estate and how to grow their brokerages and, make their agents more productive. So I'm gonna go take a nap. And we will see you guys. No, I'm joking.
We'll see you at the outro. So no, we gotta keep the dad jokes coming, Ben. But Tim, we got to dig in, right? So as always, we spend a couple of minutes, before the podcast, just kind of talking and making sure that we're all on the same page with what it is that we're trying to accomplish. And I almost had to say, I said, so Tim, let's talk about this. And I almost had to say, stop talking, Tim. That is exactly what I want the audience to hear. So now we have to go back and kind of replay what it was that you talked about, because it was absolutely spot on.
Yeah.
We started, first of all, with, so you're from Philly. So let's get a little bit of background from little kid to opening a real estate brokerage. Okay. Let's talk about that for just a second. And then we really want to dig into opening the real estate brokerage.
Absolutely. No, I appreciate it. And thank you for the intro. So yeah, Tim Garrity, Copper Hill Real Estate, from the greater Philadelphia area, as we call it, born in the suburbs, about 10 minutes outside of the city's borders. One of 4, 2 parents, still together today, still living in the house that I grew up in. Very, very common in Philadelphia. Generational Philadelphia too, great grandparents, grandparents, parents, myself. I have, almost 20 cousins on my dad's side, all pretty much live in the area. So we're a very stereotypical Irish Catholic family out of Philadelphia. But Yeah, kind of grew up in a household where my parents both worked. So they worked full time and took care of 4 kids. And to this day, I really have no clue how they did it. But it taught me how to work hard from a very young age. And for me, a lot of that was in Philadelphia, if you're not familiar, we go to the Jersey Shore. Now, it's not the Jersey Shore that you see on MTV. It's the South Jersey Shore, which is the classy version of the Jersey Shore. Sorry, New York, sorry, North Jersey, but you know it's true. So that's Philadelphia's beach. And going down to the Jersey Shore in the summers, my dad wanted to keep us busy when we were young. So a lot of my work ethic stems from that, meaning I was, selling papers in front of a church when I was 8 years old, and 35 cents for a paper, I get a 10-cent tip, and I'd be like, jumping up and like clicking my heels because I thought it was the greatest thing in the world.
Right.
I rented beach equipment on the beach, setting up people's umbrellas and beach chairs for people coming down for the day who didn't want to buy all that stuff. I worked in restaurants. I mean, I was very well-rounded in terms of, working hard, understanding what I wanted to do. And then when I graduated college, I had a marketing degree. I got into sales, but on the mortgage side of things. And I was a street loan officer for a couple of years, did very well with that. But through my sales skills and networking, I just met a lot of real estate agents, created relationships, and I got an opportunity at the age of 24 to be in management for a top 3 residential home builder in the United States, which is Pulte Homes. And absolutely crushed it with that company. Realized I was very good at motivating salespeople, training them, teaching them, finding tools to sell more homes. But then when everything hit the fan in 2008, 2009, I lost my job. And as a lot of people, when you lose your job, you can either go curl up in a corner and wonder why, or you can dust off your shoes and be like, hey, what am I doing? So for me, it was going down the entrepreneurial path of real estate. And when I got in, I didn't take the traditional path. A lot of people, when they get in, they're like, oh, I should go work for a big box shop because they're going to give me lots of training and lots of leads. And like, I'll feel busy and, I'll just do it that way. And there's nothing wrong with that. But my path was more, I wanted to go learn how real estate worked and what does it mean to be a salesperson versus a broker? And like, why would you do that? And then I realized early on that I wanted to work on my broker's license. And 5 years after being licensed in real estate, I had a broker's license. My brother Ryan and my brother from another mother, which is Andrew, we started Copper Hill from scratch about 8 years ago, and here I am.
Yeah, that's so cool. And the thing is, guys, and I don't know, and you may be listening to this, you can't see it or whatever. But one thing about Tim, and anytime I've ever spoken with him, or the few times that I've seen him on a Zoom, I know you've seen him on a Zoom several times. Just everything's put together.
Yep.
Right. That's the biggest thing, and I think and I think that there's so much that comes from that. Of there's never, like the way that I stumble. There's never a stumble in that conversation. Right. There's never there's always clarity, I feel like, in his mind of what he's about to say, what he's going to say, because he knows that there's a tremendous amount of value with it.
Absolutely.
Right. And we want to dive into that. Of course, we're going to go straight into now. It's just a perfect segue of, all right, this brokerage started 8 years ago. Tell us what it was like at the beginning. We're going to talk a little bit about traction, of course. But I wanted to preface that with everyone, because sometimes that's something that's very overlooked, I think, sometimes when someone's being interviewed. But if you go back and you listen to these first few minutes, gosh, you can hear why he's so successful, even talking about putting out beach chairs all the way to, well, gosh, I did great with this builder, but 07, 08 came and, see everybody later. So pay attention to that guys, the rest of the way, because it's a very important aspect and really, big part of why Tim's on the show today.
Absolutely. And so Tim, you said something really powerful just a second ago, which kind of brings us into the next phase of this. You said you wanted to go kind of roll your sleeves up and get it figured out yourself. Right. Yeah. You wanted to not have the answers given to you. Right. So you could have, you had the background, right? You could have went to a bunch of different real estate brokerages and said, hey, look, I'd love to learn how to do this. Maybe I can open a brokerage some other time, or a branch of what you're doing or whatever. But instead of taking all of those answers and instead of taking somebody else's playbook, right? This is what I alluded to before the show, guys. Instead of everybody else's playbook, he wanted to dig in and really understand this at a different level, right? Tell us a little bit about that decision, and then kind of some of those steps that you took and how that brought you kind of to where you are right now with your brother and with Andrew, with Ryan and Andrew.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So I think for me too, with my background, because I had almost a decade of corporate America experience, the natural progression would have been to a big box shop. Again, nothing wrong with that path. It just wasn't the path for me. And I had relationships to jump on a team or jump into management right away without even understanding real estate sales because I was brand new. And I think for me, the biggest thing I took away from corporate America is someone else was telling me to do certain things all the time in order to be successful, and it worked. And then one day they're just like, you know what, this isn't a good fit. And there were reasons that happened on both my side and their side. And I don't need to jump into it, but it taught me a lot about putting all of my eggs in someone else's basket in order to succeed. So I think for me, I said, now I need to put the eggs in my basket, and I need to go figure this out. So when Andrew, Ryan, and I started Copper Hill, I was actually finishing the last year of my MBA because the employer I worked for before then convinced me to go back because they said that was my path to growth and we'll start paying for that. Well, little did I know, halfway through, I got axed. And when I got axed, I was like, well, what am I supposed to do with this? I have 50% of a master's degree done. So I was even more fired to be like, I'm just going to go finish this. So my first year in real estate when I was licensed was working 50, 60 hours a week, going to school at night, finishing my MBA. And I made $15,000 my first year in real estate in 2010 because it was the worst market to be an agent. And I was brand new. So I knew nothing. So that first year taught me so much. But I created a lot of building blocks. Like I was blogging, I was going to networking events, I was making phone calls, sending postcards, calling people I didn't know to set up coffee meetings and, why do you flip homes, things like that. So that when we started Copper Hill 8 years ago, I had a lot of foundational stuff that Andrew and Ryan didn't have at the time. So my strength to the group of three was really in this is how we start the business, because my MBA was in management. I had management experience and I had ground level experience getting into it. And, my brother Ryan's more the creative type. So he's more the idea guy. He's the marketing guy. And Andrew's background is actually in engineering. He did that for a few years out of college, went to a fantastic school in Philadelphia, Drexel University. And after a couple of years, he just hated it and just quit and went cold turkey into real estate. So as soon as I met him, I was like, whoa, you're my kind of guy. That's kind of what I got fired. But you knew you wanted to dive into this, something in your mind was telling you this is the way I want to go. So when we got together, extremely difficult. You have to do everything from scratch. When you start on your own, you have zero, there's nothing. You don't even have an open house sign-in sheet. So try and think of it that way. You have to build everything. Your email signatures, your marketing material, your training, your culture. Why does the brand look like this? When we go out and we meet new people, what's our story? What are we all about? Because if I go work for another company, they're like, here's our story. This is what we're all about. We've been around for 50 years and this is how we've grown. So you just have it. But we were like, nah, we did it because of this. And this is where we want to see it going. So that's kind of how we got started.
Yeah, so that's so killer. And so getting started is extremely important. Knowing why you want to get it started is extremely important. Knowing the steps that you need to take and having the business background, all of that helped, but that didn't make it easy.
No.
And so what you had to do is you had to figure out a way of making sure that you stayed on track. You had to figure out a way of making sure that the things that you were doing, you could measure them, go back and look at them and see if they were things that were going to carry you the right way going forward. Right. And so, one of the conversations you and I had, we shared a conversation about a business philosophy, we'll call it. And it was a book called Traction by Gino Wickman. Right.
Yep.
And so you guys as a team, you guys leverage that, correct?
We did. Yeah. I was actually out at a street festival in Philadelphia, and one of my buddies who started an architectural rendering business, same, started from scratch, just like we did, a few years ahead of us, was growing faster. and he asked me if I ever heard of the book, and it's not my personality. I'm not usually like that. I mean, I read, but I'm not like I need to read one book a week or a month or a year. Like, it's just not how I operate personally, and I know a lot of people do, and that's wonderful. But he was like, you got to read this book called Traction, and I'm like, okay, like why? And he's like, well, you're doing the same thing I'm doing, and I read it, and I'm telling you, I am like a well-oiled machine after reading this thing. It's an easy read. You'll be through it probably in a couple of days because you'll get so into it because you're a business owner. And he's like, what it does is it pretty much maps out not only your communication strategy and your like organizational strategy, but it also helps you form, what are your goals? How are we going to get there? Like, what projects have to be done to meet that goal at the end of the year? And I will say, in the first couple of years, the thing we were lacking was really a plan or a playbook. And we were just like, oh, that was a pretty good year. That was better than last year. It's like, well, what the heck was our goal? What did we even want to achieve? And I think after a few years, excuse me, after a few years, we realized we're like, you know what? We need a little more structure. So we all read the book at the same time. We all loved it. And then in the book, it literally tells you how to organize your company. And for us, not everyone has 3 co-founders. So we were kind of unique. And in the book, they really had like 2 people that were responsible for different things. So again, you just adjust based on what you're reading and who's good at what. And probably the number one thing out of the book that I can share right now with the audience that I think was the biggest game changer for us are weekly meetings, quarterly meetings, and annual meetings. And you never miss a meeting unless you're like dying. If you're like out of town, you reschedule. If you're off or you got an emergency, you reschedule. And it really is like, the best way I can describe it, it got a lot out on the table to be like, who was happy with this, who didn't want to do that. And that kind of communication and trust in one another for knowing each other better just creates an amazing level of accountability. And that accountability for the 3 of us is really what organized our company and what scaled our company. And that was the part we all wanted to do that. We didn't want to be a team of 10. We wanted to be a team of 50 or 100 or 200. And we want to see this thing grow. So in order to do that, I mean, you really got to lay some foundational stuff in order to see it, because without the foundation, I mean, the house falls apart.
Hey guys, this episode of the Brokerpreneur podcast is brought to you by the Speculo Group. The Speculo Group is the turnkey solution for agent and brokerage lead generation. With a focus on generating the highest quality leads from platforms like Google, YouTube, Facebook, and more, the Speculo Group is your one-stop shop to dominating your local market and beyond. Visit their website for more information at thespeculogroup.com.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you hit on a couple of big things there that I want to make sure that the audience really picks up on. So it's not just about having a plan. It's about identifying roles and trusting people in those roles. And it's also about prioritization. It's about knowing what comes when.
Prioritization is huge.
Yeah, absolutely. And so those 3 things together helped you guys grow and you became really productive and everything. And so, when we were trying to schedule this, one of the things that we ran into is you were getting ready to go into your quarterly meeting, right?
Yeah.
And so you guys just finished your quarterly meeting. Let's talk about this a little bit because we love having actionable, practical things from the podcast as much as possible. Okay. So you just had your quarterly meeting, your 3rd quarter going into the final quarter of the year. That means you guys are planning the rest of this quarter, but also taking a real look at next year, right? Because you had some priorities, you were able to go from the beginning of the year until now, and you guys are going to make some shifts and some changes in your business. So you actually know what's going to happen at the beginning of the year, right?
Yep, exactly. And what's really nice about that, Matt, is that, without getting like too technical into the book, every quarter. So let's say you have your first meeting of the year. Everyone has what are called rocks. And rocks is an easy way of saying projects. Okay, Tim has project 1, project 2, project 3. These are the reasons why we're doing these projects in Q1 of 2022. And the goal is to complete all 3 projects by the meeting. And if you don't, like if I did nothing, Like, I'm going to have to answer to two other people and tell them I felt very lazy. I was too busy. I had family stuff. I had sales. I mean, life gets in the way. As you guys know, you're both parents, you're both business owners. Life gets in the way every second of every day. And it's very easy to just say life got in the way. But I think the goal of traction is really like, you're never going to say that because it's never going to work. So as you get good at it, it takes a good year or two to really find your traction, as they call it, where it's like the parties involved for the planning and the strategy and the growth, like they really, really get good at their lanes. And, it went from me being more of like an operational lane for the brokerage to the brokerage also having a title company, which we own, and then also having a development division that we own. So today the lanes are, my lane is brokerage and, some title because it's very relevant to that. And Ryan and Andrew are more focused on the development division. But I have 2 employees now with the brokerage. So I got a team of 3, they got a team of 2. And that is where the organization is today. So to go back to your original point, so like some of my rocks for Q3, let's call it, that I had to work on. One was like understanding some of our employee roles and like tightening up what they're doing exactly. So it's like, this person might have been doing this before. Now we want them to do a little bit more of that. I took a whole quarter to think about it. Like, I literally have a calendar invite in my calendar every week for an hour at least to go through my rocks and add notes. I got 12 weeks. So I got 12 opportunities to edit, delete, redo, finish. Sometimes I finish in a month. Sometimes I'm doing it right before the meeting. So it just depends, but that was one. Another one is find a better way for the brokerage to be more profitable next year. Because again, for all those people out there who want to start a brokerage, whether you go with a franchise or you go on your own, like, you're not going to get rich. Like, the brokerage is a tough thing to make money on, but the brokerage is the nucleus for a real estate organization, a real estate venture to go down different paths. And those different subsidiaries, it's become like an octopus. Think about it's like there's 8 arms and, the head is the foundation. And then these arms are different things like title and mortgage and insurance and development, all sorts of different things you want to do. And that's where you really succeed. But in order to be an octopus and have those 8 arms and have it all work very well together, that foundation of the brokerage has to be like airtight, it has to be very strong. And that's really, after 8 years, I would say we are a very strong organization. And now we're trying to take it up a notch faster than we ever have.
Yeah, and so I've got to point out something that will absolutely, because you and I have talked about it. It's an intended consequence, but whenever you grow, if you don't have things in place, whenever you grow, you will scale the wrong way. What will happen is things will take on a life of their own. Things will, culture will fracture. Your profitability will start to erode if you don't have a systemized way to make sure that the growth is happening. If you decided to bring a new team member in because you were going to add property management to your company, as an example, that person would fold directly into the whole system of what you're doing. And they would know what it is that they're supposed to do and how they contribute and what their role is and what they're supposed to do from a profitability standpoint, because you guys already have that hub that you were talking about just a second ago, right? The center that has the tentacles to it. So I absolutely love that. And brokers listening to this need to make sure that they're taking a real honest look at themselves and making sure that they have those processes in place. Okay. So let's say that somebody doesn't. Let's say that somebody is out there, they're on the struggle bus, right? They're trying to make things happen. They're trying to get things on track. Other than buying the book, what's their first step? What is the first thing that if you could grab them by the shoulders and shake them and say, okay, this is what you need to do? What would be that first thing that you would tell somebody to do that's trying to get on track?
One thing in traction that's really important, it's a very foundational thing, is your core focus. So they talk about, it could be like, I don't know, 3 to 5 words or a sentence, or I can't remember exactly. It's been years since we did ours. And you're really trying to figure it out because like you could be too specific or you could be too general. So you're like, what is our core focus? And it came out of my brother Ryan's mouth. We actually have it as a graphic on our wall in our office. And it says building genuine relationships. And one thing we notice about us, like starting out as agents for a couple years and finding success in real estate sales, was it really came from our relationships. And we were all very blessed to kind of like be from the area that we're working in and growing a business. Now, I know a lot of people don't have that. People relocate, they start businesses in different places, and they're almost starting from ground zero. So I would say we had a little bit of a leg up. And Philadelphia is a very generational area. So it's like you meet someone, you're like, oh, my cousin knows, like, you know, your third cousin or your roommate from college. And you're like, oh, how did that happen? Like the degrees of separation here are like very, they're very close together. So it's funny, but so building genuine relationships to us was everything that we had as salespeople and everything we have as a brokerage is because of the people we know. And it's they know us, they like us, and they trust us with their real estate. And those relationships allowed us to start a brokerage from scratch where we weren't reliant on lead generation to grow it. Like a lot of people, they'll just say, take out their credit card, go to a lead gen source and be like, give me a lot of stuff, hit the phones, here's the percentage of success, like do it. You'll get better with your scripts. And that's fine. That's a way to do it. We did it the opposite. We said, let's use the relationships that we have to cultivate trust for Copper Hill and ourselves as business owners so that more people are looking out for our business every day. And that is what allowed us to become a referral-based brokerage. So now when we bring agents in, and I bring agents in from all different brokerages. We have Keller Williams agents and Weichert and Caldwell Banker and independent shops in Philly that have all come to work for Copper Hill. And I teach them from the ground up. I'm like, you have to look at this is that you each have a book of business, and your book of business starts with the people you know. But how do we make that book of business your own? Like they're working with Bill Smith. They're not, Copper Hill is a byproduct and they like Copper Hill. It's a good brand. Like maybe they know me, I'm a leader and I know what I'm doing, but ultimately they're going to work with you because of who you are and either your relationship or your experience. And I really train and mentor our agents to have confidence in their books of business. So start with who you know, build that trust, close a couple deals, treat them like absolute gold. And then when you're done, they're going to give you an online review. They're going to tell 5 people how amazing you are. You're going to get 2 calls. You're going to close 2 more deals. You're going to make 10, 20,000 more in income. And you're going to look at the next year and be like, I did 10 deals the year before. Now I'm doing 20. I'm making more than double my money. And nothing came from cold marketing. It all came from the book of business that I'm growing.
Yeah, I love it. Relationship first, man. Relationships, being less transactional and more relationship is the best protection against your people buying homes through someone else.
Yep.
Period.
I mean, I say all the time, I'm like, it's not about the deal, it's about the relationship. And if the relationship is going to suffer or be strained because you really want to get this deal done, maybe they lost out on 5 homes and this is the 6th, and we're like, you know, we're at the 10-yard line. And the seller's trying to screw your buyer client, you cut bait and you take your deposit and you go find the 7th. And, you know, I make examples like that all the time because I'm like, it's not about you and saying, this is how hard I've worked. I haven't made a cent. I've been at this for a year with the same client and I'm frustrated. I'm like, that's why real estate is hard. That's why, you know, 80% of agents fail and get out within 5 years. So 1 out of 10 are surviving after half a decade. Like that's a tough industry to make it in, but setting your expectations early that this is tough and you have to get tough to get good at it is a great way to learn. And for me, like, I love teaching this stuff because this is how I got into it. I got in and I got beat up. You know, when I got in, I'm like, I got almost 10 years of corporate experience. I got an MBA, like, you know, I'm from here. I know a lot of people and people, you know, hit me left and right. And I dropped and I'm like, whoa, I was not expecting that. So then you get up, you dust yourself off and you're like, I will never do that again, or I'll never say that again. And then that helps you get stronger. So as soon as agents come in, I teach by application. And I'm like, look, the part of the reason you're probably here is because you and I have gelled and or you believe in what I'm doing. Otherwise, you would just go to a big brokerage where they offer this and that and the other thing. And I don't offer all that. But if you're going to come in here and work with me, then you have to be someone who can be coached. And if you're not coachable, this is the wrong brokerage. If you are coachable, you are going to do fantastic here. No one's ever going to be breathing down your neck. You're going to feel like you have, all the flexibility and freedom in the world, and you're going to build this thing on your own terms. The book of business will belong to you. And if you and I don't work out after 5 years or 10 years, I'm never going to take that personal. You had to take your book of business somewhere else for another reason. And it's probably so that you can grow. And all I want to do is see you grow. So at the end of the day, that's what I preach.
Yeah, so I love it, and such a good message. And I'm just for the sake of time, I'm gonna ask one more question, then Ben's gonna let everybody know how to, kind of talk to you about how everybody can get in touch with you. Okay. So if there was one tool, okay, we know if people come for the tools, they leave for the tools. If they come for the commission split, they leave for the commission split. We know all that, right? But if there's one tool that in your experience that help your agents grow and really kind of take their business to the next level, if there's one thing that they could really be very structured with, tell us a little bit about what that would be and everything. I think I've got an idea of what you're going to say, but I want to hear what you think that it is that would take them to that next level. And then Ben will talk to you about how everybody can get in touch with you. Okay. I'm
probably going to throw you for a loop here, Matt. I mean, we've talked many, many times and you're an amazing mentor, but I don't know if I've ever physically said this is the tool. When I go out and I train and mentor the agents we have, or I go out and I meet another agent and we have lunch together and I walk away, I always let them leave with something of value. And the one thing I tell every single person that I know in real estate, if you're not doing it already, is a monthly newsletter. A monthly email newsletter with original content that talks about who you are, talks about what you do, talks about what you know, like what you love. Like you have to share the things that you love, because if you're not passionate about it and you're sharing it out there, people are going to sense that. They're going to be like, this is a joke. This is like generic. If you share something out there that actually is your personality and what you truly love about life, and you're just putting it out there to see if other people relate to that, then the people who read it, even if it was only 50 people a month, it doesn't matter. Maybe 30 of them are relating to that. And if you got 30 captive leads from an email newsletter of 50 people, you are crushing the industry average. And that monthly newsletter, that's building the genuine relationships. That's knowing, liking, and gaining that trust. And that's how you build a book of business, because it all stems from that foundation of getting in front of your network one time every month.
That's so killer. That's not what I thought you would say, but that is so fantastic. And everybody listening, 100%, they should dig into that. Completely agree.
Yeah, it's not what people think, and people look at that, they're like, I already do one. I'm like, let me look at it. I'm like,
you don't do one. Somebody does one for you.
Right? What does this say about you? This is like 90%. Garbage in, garbage out. So it's got to be about you. And if you don't know who you are or what you like or what you want to talk about, I'll help you get to that. Let's talk about it, and I'll give you some ideas on what you can put out there.
So good.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, for any of our listeners out there who are like me, I thought we were just going to talk about Rocky, but we didn't. So I'm going to talk about Rocky, Ben. I'm going to at least ask, which one's your favorite?
You know what's so funny? It's like so many people before, like you come here from like out of town, and you see people at an Eagles game, they start making fun of you for Rocky. They're like, your biggest idol is a fictional boxer who's not even a real person. It's Sylvester Stallone. I'm like, what you don't understand about Rocky is Rocky was everything about what Philadelphia is about. That's why Rocky's the man. It's about grit. It's about loyalty. It's about never say die and winning the whole thing. So that's why we love Rocky.
Yeah, hang on. Philadelphia was the nation's capital first.
That is very true. People take our history for granted. They just want to come here, eat cheesesteaks, run up the Art Museum steps.
Oh man, so much history in Philadelphia. It's absolutely incredible. I cut Ben off. Ben didn't even talk
about Rocky. I love Rocky.
Cut him off.
I love Rocky. I wanted to talk about Rocky. Rocky 4 is my favorite. Yeah,
Rocky 4 is the best.
If he dies, he dies. You know what I mean? Like, how can you beat that, right? Like, don't even watch another movie after you see that. It's only downhill from there, guys.
You will.
But anyways, So Tim, if any of our listeners want to get in touch with you and just say, man, you did a great job, or I have a question for you, or connect with you on LinkedIn or something like that, tell us, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Easiest way, go to our website, copperhillre, as in real estate.com. Go to the Our Team page, find me, my cell phone email is right there, so that's not a problem. And then we're pretty big on Instagram. We do a lot of our original content on there, a lot of our listings, so you can see what kind of real estate we specialize in, some of our development projects. So you can check us out on Instagram as well. It's copperhillre is our handle on Instagram.
Perfect. Well, guys, I'll put all that information in the description below as usual. And Matt,
Yeah, man.
aren't we so grateful that Tim is here? And he came
Absolutely.
to share all of his wealth of knowledge.
Absolutely. We knew this would be such a great, interview and so helpful to the audience. Tim, we're super grateful that you're an open book and willing to share all that. That's awesome, man.
I want one of those hats. Man, I gotta get one of those hats. That's dope, man. Does that come in green?
Lot of style.
Yeah.
I appreciate it, fellas. Again, like I said, it's an honor to be here. I love listening to you guys, and thanks for having me on.
Yeah, sure thing. Well, guys, if you're listening to this on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Deezer, any of those platforms, make sure to hit that follow button. If you're watching this on YouTube, what's up? Make sure to hit that red subscribe button, that bell right so you get notified every time we drop a new episode. Go to brokerpreneurpodcast.com. Check out all the cool things that we have to grow your brokerage, no matter what phase or stage of the business that you're in. Matt, we bring on amazing guests, just like Tim, who wear sick hats and talk about Rocky for a few seconds for one reason.
You know what you're doing, Ben? I'm going to be mailing these hats all over the country now. I mean, I'm not in the business of doing that, but
let's go.
people reach
Let's
out.
do it.
You don't have to mail them all over the country. I just live in Clearwater.
We'll get through for sure.
So you guys who do this for one reason alone, tell them why that is.
Because we just want to be part of your win. Thanks, guys.
See you guys.